Blackout. My name is Timo, and with me again is Mike Marshall from the Name Taken podcast. Mike, how you doing?
Good, Tim. How are you?
I'm excellent. This past week, we decided that in preparation of Mortal Kombat 2021 coming out, we were going to watch the 1995, let's say, more melodramatic version of the Mortal Kombat
rendition,
films.
Yeah.
And frankly, I think we ended up coming out of the conversation enjoying aspects of that movie, but we have not spoken about this movie yet. And you just watched it.
I did.
But I have to say, I watched this the other night, and I could not have been more pleased with the product put before me. I really enjoyed it. What'd you think?
That's fine. That's fine. I feel like, I mean, actually, I didn't watch the last like 20 minutes of it. I feel like I got it. It's fine. There are parts of it that were fine. I just feel like that's been my whole movie going experience of 2021. Like, yeah, okay, fair enough.
And I would agree with you. Yeah, I would agree with you on pretty much everything else that we've watched recently.
Yeah.
Especially for Subject to Blackout. It's been underwhelming, the recent new releases.
Yeah.
But I gotta say, this gave me everything I had hoped Kong versus Godzilla would give me.
Okay.
Which specifically was
a lot more Japanese.
Yeah. And I was expecting enough plot and character development not to be a good movie, but to successfully pass on from fight scene to fight scene.
Fair enough.
Which I think it did fairly successfully. There was some pretty cringy moments and some not great acting and actors and actresses. But I think what they did well was realize the limitations of again, like we spoke about last week, turning a fighting game into a narrative film.
Right.
They managed to do it well enough, and then the fight scenes I thought were really, really fun. And for those who enjoy the games deeply, and for those who just enjoy a good fight scene, I think they really crushed it.
I suppose that's fair enough. I think the fight scenes were certainly fun. I thought Kano was fun.
Yes.
I can't remember who actually plays Sonya Blade, but I called her Hilary Swank the entire time. Hilary Swank was fine. And
more like Shillery Slank. Oh.
But like one of the things, I'm just so sick of this. I hope that this is like a narrative trope that we look back on in 10 years and are just like kind of cringe about it. But the same thing has happened in a bunch of these like franchise reboots, is where all the main characters spend most of the movie just sucking at stuff. And like Tomb Raider did that in the reboot, and
I didn't see that.
Power Rangers did it on the reboot. And honestly, like I want to watch a movie where people can just do shit. I don't want to watch a movie where people discover anything about themselves. I don't want to watch a movie where people struggle. I don't want to watch a movie anymore where it's sort of like, well, like you guys are too big of douchebags to like really be saviors of the world. Like how many times have I seen that movie? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a bunch of times. I'm like so over that.
That is fair.
Yeah.
You make an excellent and fair point.
One of the things that I was going to do here to be like deeply insincere about this, and I can still do it effectively, and you can just edit this part out so it's flawless. But I feel like if I see, that was one
flawless sanctimony,
fatality. But
get your audio over here.
But I understand the reason why they were fighting about as much as I understood the reason why they were fighting in Zack Snyder's Justice League. So I've just been conflating elements of both movies. You know, like I can't remember that part. Remember that part where like Kano is like, just want to shut the fuck up about mother boxes. And you're just like, yo, I don't know what those are or why anybody cares about them. No one's explained it to me, and why they're called mother boxes, because it's a stupid fucking name. Like I felt like there's like a bunch of like, you know what I'm going to do? This is what I'm going to do. Personal discovery right now. Like in the same way that we talk about a MacGuffin in a movie where it's just sort of like a main motivating thing, right? So like a mother box is a MacGuffin. Yeah. I'm going to start using the word mother box to describe a particular type of MacGuffin that's fucking stupid and doesn't make any sense, and nobody ever explains it. You know, like Waterworld, dry land, that's a fucking mother box.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that really is a mother box.
So, like, Mortal Kombat,
I don't know if
they have
there's
to
a mother
fight
box in
to
this.
save the Earth realm. That's a mother box shit right there. Like, why?
I mean, to be fair, I don't know canon of the game, but that was the exact same reason 1995's movie happened, and you were a much larger fan of that 1995 version than I was. You enjoyed the camp of it much more than I did.
I thought, yeah, because I thought they relied on camp instead of like trying to make the characters like serious and have like flaws and crap. Like, I don't want to watch well-rounded characters. I want to watch a bunch of dudes
I think it's just a
wailing
sign
on
of
each other.
Yeah, and that's fair enough, because I mean that's what makes John Wick movies amazing, is that it's like his dog is dead, and then the rest of the movie is a action sequence. Just like 4 action sequences set in like 5 different locations. So that's fair to hope for like a bad John Wick movie with Mortal Kombat characters, but I think one of the reasons that I enjoyed this so much was we just watched the 1995 film. While I didn't particularly care for it, they used a lot more from that film than I expected.
That's a fair point. They did. Yeah.
The general plot, Reptile being a reptile and invisible, Goro. I thought Jessica McName, who played Sonya Blade, played her Sonya Blade very closely to the Sonya Blade of Mrs. Sampras. And I feel like there was a lot there that felt very like, no, we're not ditching 1995. We're going to just like kind of spruce it up and do it in a more current style.
Right.
So that meant less camp. It didn't mean big name actors. That's for goddamn sure. There's a couple of guys who, and I'm sure I'm going to butcher this, but Hiroyuki Sanada as Scorpion, I recognize from a couple of different things. I believe he was briefly in a Marvel film, but he was also in season 2, I want to say, of Westworld on HBO. And so I've seen him in a few things, and he was, he's probably the biggest name actor on this list. But, I thought they did a better job than 1995. If, we look at it in 25 years, I'm sure it will be crap compared to what that acting is. But for the most part, I thought the guy who played Kano, Josh Lawson, was pretty funny, pretty entertaining. And I just generally enjoyed that they did minimal character work and then got out of the way for some nice action set pieces, some cool fatalities, and I enjoyed myself more than I expected I would.
That's fair enough. I mean, I think you kind of like appreciate this aesthetic more. I am definitely someone who likes stuff that's like very camp and like very flamboyant. So my aesthetics are definitely more grounded in like 70s and 80s B movies and like 90s fantasy and science fiction for sure.
So, Mike, one of the things that I wanted to talk about that resembled the 1995 movie was the fact that Liu Kang, played by Ludi Lin, when he comes over that mountainside in his introduction, I thought they were going to use the CGI of the actor from the 1995 film. His
Robin
outline, his outline in silhouette looked exactly like that actor. I thought that was a great little bit of either casting or CGI, whatever it was. Liu Kang immediately from there on out resonated with me as Liu Kang. I appreciated that they also did Scorpion and Sub-Zero a little bit more good service by fleshing them out as competitive characters and like people who talk and do things as opposed to just like mindless slaves in the 1995 version. But yeah, I mean, pretty much every part of the plot is contrived bullshit.
Yeah.
But I thought it was contrived bullshit in service of getting us to a place where we could do some pretty, I feel like, video game accurate violence.
Sure.
Which I think out of anything that they improved or perfected from the 1995 film would be these fight sequences and the absolute brutality of some of the moves and fights.
Do you remember that one part in the movie where okay, so that dude threw that hat shield and it kind of like was like a buzzsaw and it like buzzsawed what's her face like in half, and then
the flying lady who seemed like she was going to be a big deal and then wasn't a big deal at all because she got sawed in half.
Yeah, and then it flew back to that dude, and then at that moment he realized that he wasn't the Falcon anymore, he was Captain America. And like, and Sebastian Stan was like, yeah,
like tearing up in the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a good scene. That was an emotional scene for me.
Yeah.
You know,
and like Darkseid standing there the whole time is just like not psyched.
Yeah, but I thought Megatron shouldn't have been in the scene, frankly. I felt like he should have come in later. Yeah. I mean, everyone had a reason in that room to be mad at Megatron, and they were all just ignoring.
Yeah, you know, like fan service is fine, but if you're gonna go like full Joss Whedon and just sort of bow to everything that they want, like, you know, at that point, you're not making a movie anymore. It's terrible.
Yeah, we're just making a commercial.
Yeah, but no, I thought the fight sequences were good. I think I haven't disagreed with any of your points. I think you're making all good points. I think our opinions about it are really just sort of like a difference in preference and aesthetic, which is a shame because we really could be more contentious in arguing about this.
Well, yeah, I mean, go fuck yourself. This is my podcast and I'll do it how I goddamn please.
Sure, fair enough.
But no, I after you said that it kind of felt Snydery, like the whole Jax like thing is like, oh, he's a black guy who is a cyborg. Oh no, he's cyborg.
That was where I was at too. I was like, I got it.
I was like, I did. So you saw it during the movie. I did not see that during the movie. But yeah, I mean, for me, I was pleasantly surprised by how violent it was. Like 1985 is not like they tried to make that like almost family friendly, and that is just not what Mortal Kombat is about. So watching people get split in half and, you know, watching Sub-Zero blow fire out of his mouth, or I'm sorry, Scorpion blow fire out of his mouth at Sub-Zero and watch his face melt into a skull, I was like,
that's cool.
Yo, that's fucking metal. Like that is cool as shit. So I think, yeah, I mean, there were definitely moments in that first act where I'm like, yo, I don't like, they made up the character of Cole Young just for this movie.
I was wondering about that. I had to look that up while we were watching. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's the worst character. He's just like kind of a bitch.
Yeah. He's whiny.
He keeps whining and getting his ass kicked. And then like, his secret power is to listen to his daughter, who, by the way, is like 10 years younger than him. That was weird casting. I was like, that girl needs to be way younger or he needs to be way older.
That whole thing was weird. I mean, the emergence of his like arcana, his superpower, was like kind of lame. I mean, it was like X-Men style, like emerged at a moment of like great crisis or like emotional freak out or need or whatever. But he's like fighting Goro. He's like an MMA dude. You'd think he'd be able to get a few licks in there. And Goro's just sort of like, okay, well, I'm gonna lift you up by your neck. And then his wife goes after Goro with an axe and just nails him with an axe, where you're kind of like, oh, I guess his weakness is axes. Like, why didn't you think of axe like the entire time, dude?
He has no axe defense.
Yeah, so yeah, he was kind of whiny, and he wasn't really like, he didn't have the will of a warrior. That's what his problem was. He didn't have the will of a warrior.
And they set it up where he's Scorpion's like great whatever, grandson. But, you know, he gets this black and yellow bracelet from his daughter, and then his arcana starts to like form out of the bracelet. And I was like, oh, he's going to like channel Scorpion. that'll be cool. But instead, he just gets like a Wakandan like armor that absorbs power. And
Yeah,
it.
he
And
gets
a
a Wakandan armor that absorbs
"Ugh,
power. I know, and then
that's really, really just like a pure ripoff.
and then you can hear his daughter like when that first happens, and like girls just like wailing on him, and his like armor is like pulling in power.
Bright orange.
You can hear her yell. I mean, it's like the point is to hear her yell, like, use your uppercut. Like, dude, press B. Press B button.
B. Speaking of calls to the fact that it's a video game, when Kano first starts training in Kunlun or wherever the fuck they are,
Right.
and Liu Kang just keeps doing the leg sweep on him, and he's like, "Oh, what? You only got one move?" And then he like fakes does the leg sweep, and he lands, and he gets leg swept again. And I was just like, "Oh, that's people who just mash the same button over and over
Right.
again." I was like, "That's really clever."
There were,
So
there were really good checks for that stuff. Yeah, I know.
In neither movie was there what you were looking for, which was just like a
2D?
sweeping crane shot until it was a 2D thing.
I was waiting for that.
But I mean, that's the next one.
I'm sure.
They are setting up the next one. But like, I thought there were a lot of clever things to that. I thought the Arcana was an interesting concept to get, fire breathing and, magical knives and magical hats into the world. And honestly, I would look forward happily to seeing another one of these movies. Maybe not paying, $12 to go see it in a theater. But if this was released on HBO Max in another year or two, I would happily sit down sometime and watch another film in this particular genre.
Yeah, I mean, I do think, because like you said, like they're mostly no-name actors, and I think they're trying to use that Marvel formula of like, these people are going to be free, so let's lock them into a franchise.
Yeah.
I'm sure that they're going to give that a shot. I'd be willing to watch. Sure, I'd be willing to watch the second one. Why not? So
yeah, like I said, I was very pleasantly surprised. I thought the best parts were the fighting. I thought the comedy was actually surprisingly good.
Yeah. I thought it was
bits
fun.
of comic relief. Yeah. And I thought the plot did enough for me to ignore the fact like that the main character is like a bitch.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, Mike, I think the final thing I wanted to touch on about Mortal Kombat was music. So 1995, known for its iconic absolute
jam
slam of a fucking song.
Yeah.
The music was the biggest downgrade. I think in my personal opinion, everything was a little bit of an upgrade or a lot of bit of an upgrade. Music was forgettable. However, in the final fight scene between Sub-Zero and Scorpion, they do incorporate the 1995 theme song into that music, which
like on strings?
Not watching the last 20.
Yeah, I didn't watch the last 20 minutes.
Well, it wasn't strings per se, but it was definitely like you could hear it in the arrangement of the music. And then in the final credits, which again, I watch it just for the music, the last 20 minutes, the orchestral performance stops and they just go into like a 2012 dubstep version of it. It's like wow. So it's that was a little bit overkill. I liked that they kind of worked it into like an actual
Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, there were no hip hop air horns, but they thought about it, I'm sure. The dubstep won over the theme song. Just play like a slightly updated version of it as the credits. I don't need a dubstep version, but them working it into the final fight scene was kind of nice.
I will take your word for it. I might watch it.
You will have to. You also might not.
So might not. Yeah.
Well, do you have anything else to add, Mike?
I do have one. I did think about this during the movie, because when we talked about the previous Mortal Kombat, I talked about how much there was whitewashing, but it still wasn't even as bad as M. Night Shyamalan with the Avatar movie. I thought that the casting in this movie, which was much more appropriate for the source material, and I thought that was cool.
I thought it was great that some German guy was not playing
Raiden.
What's his bucket? Raiden.
Yeah.
I thought it was nice that the Asian characters were clearly Asian.
Yep.
And you had an Asian lead.
You did.
So,
yep. So that's cool.
Yeah, and also, you are much more in tune with Chinese culture in particular, but just Asian culture in general. You have much more knowledge than I do because you lived in China for so many years.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I thought it was cool that there were both, Chinese heritage and Japanese heritage artists performing as Chinese and Japanese. Even in the same scene where you have Sub-Zero being a predominantly Chinese character and Scorpion being Japanese. I thought that was interesting as opposed to just making them all vaguely the same Asian. It was
a really interesting choice. I mean,
there's cynical reasons behind it.
And I'm very cynical, especially about the way that American media courts not like a Chinese audience, but appropriate Chinese politics in cinema. That said, it was interesting that they went with Scorpion, Japanese, beating Sub-Zero, who is Chinese, because that will not sit well with the Chinese audience, who are very competitive with Japan. So that was, I don't know if that was like an oversight or if that was like an intentional thing, but that's going to be something that's noticed in China.
And here's why they did it. And I have 3 words for you. Round 2, fight. Neither one is gone forever. Come on, they're coming back next time. Chinese guy wins. We're going round 3. I'm just saying. Yeah, they send this film over to China, and China goes, "What the fuck?" And they're like, "Yo,
just
Mortal
wait.
Kombat 2. Just
doesn't make cars in it. It's gonna be great.
We're going to space." All right, Mike, we're going to take a quick little break here, and we'll be right back. Here's what's coming up next week on Subject to Blackout. Mike and I are going to view the 1999 cult classic, Mystery Men. The stars are out in force in Mystery Men, whether it's Ben Stiller, William H. Macy, Janine Garofalo, Greg Kinnear, or Jeffrey Rush. This movie is filled with actors that we all know and love. That and its campy aesthetics, along with its 1999 Smash Mouth-infused soundtrack, this was a big hit for people who grew up in the 90s. And as we announced last week, coming up in June is the Furiously Fast Film Fest. Once again, Mike and I will be watching 2 Fast and the Furious movies each week as we play catch-up to Fast 9. That's right, there are 5 Fridays in June, which means 2 films for the first 4 weeks, all leading up to the HBO Max and in-theater premiere of Fast 9. Join Mike and I as we experience these movies for the very first time, in most cases, and stick around for our thoughts, opinions, and maybe a few surprise twists and guests along the way. And remember, you can always reach out to us on the website, subjecttoblackout.com, or you can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, or YouTube. All right, Mike, now that we're done talking about Mortal Kombat, I was just wondering if there was any other sort of pop culture that you've been consuming recently. I'll start off by saying that Season 2 of For All Mankind on Apple TV Plus just wrapped up last week, and I won't give you any spoilers for it because you're 2 seasons in, and I'm pretty sure you haven't even watched an episode, but it is an alternate history. What if the Russians made it to the moon first? And we are already in the year 1983, I believe.
Cool.
And it is really excellent. It's hard to call it science fiction because most of it is based in either things that were real plans that got scrapped with budget cuts or actual true events. But most of the characters are fictionalized. It's not John Glenn for the most part. There are some real names, but they kind of work them out of the show pretty quickly so that they can tell some more interesting stories without having to clear it with people's families. Yeah, season 2 just wrapped up, and it's basically Tom Clancy meets Apollo 13 meets Game of Thrones. There's no fantasy elements, but there's the political intrigue of a Game of Thrones. There is the sort of, Soviet threat of a Tom Clancy novel, and there's just really excellent space work done, both by actors doing great jobs and by special effects really kicking ass. And I can't recommend that show enough, and look forward to season 3 coming out hopefully sometime next year.
Cool. I mean, you know what we could do? We could talk about Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So in an effort to take over our entire lives and our Fridays, Disney has spent the past year daisy chaining up a bunch of different Marvel and Star Wars miniseries. And obviously, yes. And our latest one was Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Having now seen all 6 episodes, my opinion about it has changed a little bit. I'm still like, it's not the best piece of like Marvel IP I have seen, but my criticisms or my discontent with it is like much more specific now that I've seen like the entire arc.
What specifically are your criticisms? Because I do not feel like the show is anywhere near being top shelf Marvel, nor is it beyond reproach. Fair
enough. Well, I liked the pairing of like, I mean, I can't remember everybody's real names, but like Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan.
Yeah.
So of the Falcon and Bucky Barnes. What is the Falcons? I know the actor's name.
Oh, it's Sam Wilson.
Sam Wilson. I like that kind of odd couple, and I thought them playing off each other was kind of fun.
I don't feel like there was enough of that, though.
I agree. I don't think there was enough of that. I thought that the approach to thinking about where do superheroes fit kind of post Thanos was a really cool angle to address their own kind of personal conflicts and arcs. And I also thought that like the, whiteness narrative for superheroes and kind of addressing how that works within a Marvel universe was also cool. I found the villains, the like kind of the terrorist organization, while their goals were entirely like what you would expect for like a Marvel series like this, I found the characters themselves to be kind of uncompelling and uninteresting. I think that was like my biggest criticism, that the villain's cause is fine, but the villains themselves are like really not that cool.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that seems to be a larger problem with Marvel villains. It seems like they still feel like, except for maybe a handful of characters, that if you're a Marvel villain, you're one and done. And I think what Marvel should have taken away from the last 10 years worth of films is that the one that they kept bringing back and the one that they kept being playful and fun and not a human, but a human character,
right,
was the one who everybody loves the most and is getting his next daisy chain Disney Plus series, and that's Loki.
Yeah.
And Loki's great because he's
charismatic.
He's not evil. He's mischievous.
Right. He's a wild card. He's chaotic neutral.
And that's why Zemo was fantastic in this series.
Yeah. Zemo was fun.
I believe his name is Daniel Bruhl. I know him most notably from Inglourious Bastards, where he plays the Nazi actor.
He's good at playing evil fascist German dudes.
Yeah.
Typecast. I mean, he's like, Hail Hydra.
He's Sokovian, not German. Yeah. So, that's different. But no, I thought he was really excellent because he is mischievous. He's not out to be evil. Like, he claims to be against super soldiers, but is like, I'm not going to hurt you, Bucky. You've proved to me that you're not the problem. So, like, that's the type of characters that you could build. And they felt like they were building with this 6-hour runtime of this. It felt like they were going to try to build this Carly character into another sympathetic, mischievous, but not evil character. And then they just kept her, this character who was empathetic and caring and passionate about her motives, do these bizarre, like, she blows up a building, which seems horribly out of character, even to the people in the film who are her compatriots. She talks about murdering people in the final episode if they have to. And again, her compatriots push against that. And it's like, Marvel, you don't have to get rid of her. Just throw her in a cell somewhere, and then she breaks out, and she's a recurring character.
That's one of the issues with Marvel. They don't have an Arkham Asylum. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, Arkham is a perfect device. Yeah. Where anybody can get booked, but like anybody can break out at any time.
Yeah, all of a sudden, the Joker got his henchman to crash an ice cream truck into a wall, and now he's escaped and he's back on the streets.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they do have that. I can't remember the name of the island maximum security prison, but it doesn't serve as like Arkham in the same way that it does in the DC universe. The Raft. Yeah. So,
yeah, but I think they're building the Raft into that because they've got Daniel Bruhl there as Zemo. And clearly he's able to get information out of there. I don't know. I was surprised that it's not John Waters. Who's the new Captain America?
Oh, Wyatt. Whatever. He was kind of, that was a fun arc. I liked there being like a failed Captain America.
I don't mind that. I don't mind that there's a failed Captain America, but he murdered someone and then he just...
With the shield?
Yeah, he murdered someone with the shield and they're like, you can't be Captain America anymore.
And then Shang Tsung is like, I can't believe you murdered.
But he didn't turn in anything because Sam just took the fucking shield and then the US government was like, well, the suit was tailored to you, so just throw it away or something. But then he just comes out and wears it the next day after making his own shield out of bullshitium.
that was like, yeah, he scrambled together. He has like a fantastic tailor just to be like, make me one Captain America, please. It could have been cosplay. We don't know. It could have been cosplay. That could be explained away somewhere, like on a Wikipedia page. But
his last name is Russell, by the way, because
Wyatt Russell, right?
Kurt Russell's son.
No way. Well done.
Yeah. Look at him, and you'll see it.
He's got that chin. He's got that jawline.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the other issues that I had with the way the ending worked was sort of like Sam Wilson's diatribe with like those senators. I mean, if you remember, for the whole history of the franchise, there's been this really weird relationship between superheroes and governments that like came to a head in Captain America Civil War, right?
Correct.
And it's just sort of bizarre to me that like this is the point among any point where like political leaders just gonna be like, well, let's just like listen to this guy and just sort of dismantle all of our plans. He made us feel uncomfortable with our whiteness. So let's not redraw the borders of all these countries.
I didn't.
I thought that was just like a Deus Ex Machina. Yeah, like it could have been done better. But like,
yes.
But saying that just sort of that the government, all these different governments, were suddenly going to capitulate after never ever ever doing that for the entire franchise. I thought that was like kind of, yeah.
I felt like the writers thought they accomplished something and they didn't. I think what the writers thought they accomplished was that it wasn't just his speech, but the political pressure because his speech was caught on live TV.
Yeah, that was an element to it too.
It wasn't conveyed enough. It was just like the next scene is like, they changed their minds. It's like, no, it should be like, public
Popular
pressure.
opinion. Sure.
Yeah, has, protests around the world have provided enough pressure where the GRC is, gonna break off and rethink their policy. Like, it shouldn't just have been like they heard that Captain America said and he was 100% right and we're changing our idea. It's like, no, you can accomplish basically the same thing by just making it a little bit more nuanced, and they just didn't. There wasn't. That was a big problem, actually. There was a lot of nuance that was available to the series where they just kind of beat you over the head with it. Like, one of the places where they successfully get away with nuance is the Carl Lumbly Isaiah Bradley character, where you only get him in like 3 or 4 scenes, and yet he has a meaningful arc where you learn through, genuine interactions about like what it means to be a black man sacrificing yourself for the United States.
That's cool.
Like, and you get several different opinions, because you get, a man who felt like he was, thrown in prison for doing pretty much exactly what Captain America did. And you also get, Sam Wilson, who was by Captain America's side, and so, saw that version of American exceptionalism, which, Isaiah Bradley was not treated with the same sort of reverence. So I thought that was all done very subtly, but I felt like a lot of it was just like, we only got 6 hours, so we're just gonna kind of be like, well, A happens, so C happens, and you can kind of figure out B.
I agree. I'm trying to remember what was, the post-credit sequence was Julia Louis-Dreyfus and Wyatt Russell, right?
Yes, he's like Julia Louis-Dreyfus and dubbing him U.S. agent.
Yeah, so I'm between WandaVision. So now we have a handful of things from Phase 4, right? So we have Spider-Man Far From Home.
I think Feige technically called that the end of Phase 3.
That was the end of Phase 3? Okay, so
according to Feige, I believe.
Okay. So we have WandaVision, and we have Falcon Winter Soldier, and then where does Black Widow fit when that finally comes out? Is that...
So Black Widow, it was supposed to come out before these television shows,
right?
But the pandemic obviously pushed that all back.
Right.
And so they were able to finish up and do the TV shows. And, being that they were always planned to release online, they were able to release before Disney felt comfortable throwing a movie back in theaters. But my biggest problem with Black Widow is that it has to take place before she dies. So this has to take place before, it's either in between the snap and the blip, or it's before even the snap happens. And so it's like, I'm sure they're going to work in the reason why the next Black Widow is going to exist, but it's like, well, why do I care about this movie? She's dead. Like, she already had her overall character arc in other people's movies. It feels too late for her to get her solo thing.
I agree. I think they're probably just trying to round out everybody, especially because Hawkeye is going to get a miniseries. But at the same time, within the Black Widow movie, we get introduced to David Harbour's character, who from the reboot of Hellboy.
You son of a bitch.
Did it.
Welcome to Subject to Blackout. This week we're going to talk...
Flawless
victory. This week on Subject to Blackout, we're going to talk about, what we always talk about, and that's David Harbour's Hellboy.
I don't even know. See, I wanted it to just sort of like come up organically. I wasn't even going to force it. It just happened. The universe wanted that to happen.
You got to David Harbour.
I did.
I saw the gears working. I don't know if you steered me towards the Black Widow movie.
Yeah, you don't know, do you?
I don't know if you did that on purpose, but you son of a bitch, you got it in.
That was all I got about Black Widow. But I mean, I think they probably had to fit every single one of the Avengers into some kind of like standalone. So, I mean, the Hawkeye
till we
one, I'm
get the
actually really
Hawkeye
excited
show.
for because they're using the reboot artwork, and the reboot artwork fucking rules. I mean,
Really?
obviously, this is the worst format to talk about visual art, but new comic book artwork for Hawkeye is like rad, totally sick. It's like an album cover.
Nice.
So
I have not seen it.
if you look at the logo for the new Hawkeye, it's the same style, like all the whole lowercase. I'll send you some. Again, not very helpful for a podcast, but so yeah, I mean that's the other big one that's been going on. And I mean I think our next Disney miniseries is going to be Star Wars. It's going to be Clone Wars related.
No, I think it's Loki.
Is Loki next, like this Friday?
The Loki release date is June 11th, so
June
it's
11th.
still a month off. But I believe that is our next Marvel. I don't know about our next Disney.
We have, well, the next Star Wars is the Bad Batch, and they're not going to do this Friday because they're waiting until May the 4th for the first one.
Obviously.
Yeah. So, but I think the Star Wars one is going to go until Loki.
I am currently looking this up.
Okay.
Why is there a Cruella movie? Like,
with Emma Stone, right?
Yeah, Emma Stone's charming and smart and beautiful, but why?
There's two types of movies that have emerged over the past 10 years, and I can't stand either of them. Like I said, I hope in 10 years we look back and we cringe about how many of these were. The first was sort of like, remember how cool these like heroes were from the 90s? Well, guess what? We rebooted the series and they suck. Power Rangers, Mortal Kombat, Tomb Raider. They can't do anything. Cool, right? No. Bullshit. So that's one. And then the other one is like gritty prequel. Like, how can we sex up 101 Dalmatians a little bit? Prequel. There's all of these like garbage prequels, like bloated garbage prequels. Like, I would argue let's add some nuance. Like I never needed to know. I never watched 100 Dalmatians and be like, I want to know her story. I don't care.
I bet she's misunderstood.
Yeah, who cares? That's not the point. That's not the point of the movie.
I think both of the genres of movie are actually just two variations of what has been criticized by others, but Red Letter Media points out is just the backstory for a thing that you never needed a backstory for.
Yeah.
I think both of those are just like the easiest way to tell a backstory that you didn't need. Like, oh, how did the Power Rangers get so powerful? It's
Who
like,
cares?
Well, we don't need to know. They're Power Rangers. They get powers and then they range.
Yeah.
And then the Cruella de Vil's like, well, why does she hate dogs? Let's figure that out. I mean, it's like a therapist. Let's talk about that.
Like, but also,
why did you want to murder the 101 Dalmatians?
Is it supposed to make me reevaluate 101 Dalmatians? To be like, well, it's not her fault. It's her upbringing that she wanted to skin a bunch of dogs alive. Like, who can be blamed besides society? Who can be blamed?
Yeah.
Do you know who wants to skin those dogs? The patriarchy. Is it?
You know who really wants to skin those dogs? Capitalism.
Yeah. Says Disney.
Yeah, Disney is coming out with a communist manifesto based around the 101 Dalmatians film series.
Disney trying to get out like ahead of the revolution. We're with you. We're with you, dude.
So this is the wild part is I was seeing someone react to the news that Emma Stone was playing Cruella de Vil in some Disney reboot prequel bullshit thing. And again, Emma Stone deserves nothing but praise for most of her career. So I hope this is a halfway decent movie, or at least she's halfway decent in it. But they were like talking about Glenn Close and like why I guess in a couple of years Emma Stone turns into Glenn Close, and my reaction was, Glenn Close was Cruella de Vil in the cartoon?
Live action.
And then I remembered they've already done a live action
Yep.
series of
101 and 102 Dalmatians. Yeah.
Oh,
and I'm
God.
sure in not one, I'm just guessing. I can't remember. But I bet you that the song Tub Thumpers is featured in the trailer for both of those movies. That is the I Get Knocked Down song.
Yeah, no, I know
Yeah.
Chumbawamba.
I'm just telling your audience who might not know the song is called Tub Thumpers.
If my audience doesn't know Chumbawamba's number one single, Tub Thumpers,
We
then
don't want
they
you
can
here.
go fuck themselves.
We don't want you here.
Get out. Never listen to Subject to Blackout again, because we formed this based on the ideals that we get knocked down and we get up again, and you're never going to keep us down.
It's playing in my head now.
Basically, I honestly,
but not even the I
as
Get Knocked Down part, like the chorus thing. Pissing the night away. Yeah.
I think within 3 weeks of each other, actually, no, definitely within 2 months of each other, I bought the Eiffel 65 I'm Blue Dabba Dee single, Tub Thumping by Chumbawamba, and
All Star
Smashing Smash Mouth, yeah.
What
album.
a time that was.
Oh
What
my God.
a time.
I think those were in that order my first 3 CDs, and they are all trash.
How many members of Smash Mouth do you think are Republicans now? I get the sense that like most of them are.
So do you know that they're very vocal on Twitter?
Are they? About what?
Being Smash Mouth.
Cool.
There is a Smash Mouth account run by some member of Smash Mouth, because I believe they're still an actively touring band, or they were in the before times.
I'm just gonna from now on the singer Smash Mouth will be referred to as Guy Fieri because he looks exactly the same.
I don't know who should be more insulted.
It was the time for
might be
Frosted
no
Tips. It was the time.
Mike, as someone who had Frosted Tips, they were cool.
Did you really? That was a time when people with Frosted Tips just like roamed the earth.
Yeah,
like Lance Bass.
So it was my slight rebellion against my Catholic school, which I had grown very dispassionate and antagonistic about after being there for 5 or 6 years out of the 9 years that I was there in grade school.
Sure.
And you weren't allowed to do anything weird with your hair, like grow it out or color it or whatever. And I could not dye my hair over the summers because it would still be, my hair would be not its natural color by the time school began. So unless I like got a buzz cut. So what I would do was get Frosted Tips every summer. Like the
That'll
day
show
I
him.
got out of school.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, my mom took me to do it, so it clearly wasn't that rebellious. Since Nancy O'Brien was like, hell yeah, let's fucking go.
I still tell people your mom's advice of like, hair grows back.
Yeah,
it'll grow back.
It does.
Yeah.
I to this day don't give a fuck about anything that happens to my hair because whatever.
Yeah,
it'll grow back. That's why I have a beard that is long and nappy and horribly unkempt today. A, because no one sees my face these days. Because masks.
I notice it.
Yeah, you do.
We should frost our tips.
I'll frost my beard, and you can frost your tips.
All right.
So, that was a very great conversation we just had about Loki.
Truth.
All right, Mike, I just want to thank you again for coming on today and talking a little Mortal Kombat, etc. with me.
Totes.
And like we said in the middle of the pod, next week, we are going to be reviewing Mystery Men.
Oh my God, I'm so excited for that one.
It's a movie we both love dearly that is leaving Netflix this Friday. If the podcast drops on Friday, boy, I hope it will. Watch it on Netflix before it goes off and you have to rent it. But yeah, a truly, gosh, what I'm hoping was a truly fantastic film as a kid is still very fun to watch.
It's going to be terrific. It's going to blow my mind.
All right. I want to thank Mike once again for coming out. And Mike, what we got coming up on the Name Taken podcast next week?
I have an interview with a commercial and documentary film director, Michael Marshall. But the reason why he'd be interesting, at least for listeners of this podcast, to check out is because he got his start on the crew that did Blair Witch Project.
Wow.
cool stories about that.
Well, all that and more over on Mike's regular weekly podcast named Taken. I want to thank everybody for joining us today and subject to Blackout. Of course, you can find us on all the podcasts. You can find us on all the socials except Facebook. And you can always visit us on subjecttoblackout.com. Mike, thanks again for coming in.
Cheers, Tim.
Have a good one.